answer a question here before I hit record. There we go. Okay, so what we are doing today is based on our heart month. Our pink today is for anti-bullying, but it falls into the same category as our heart month for pink and red. And what we are concentrating on today is snacks, and fast and easy snacks that you can prepare ahead of time. Mine is one that you can prepare ahead of time and you can put in the freezer. And Sheila's got some great snacks. She mentioned how many snacks she was going to be sharing with us today. And I'm like, all that in 15 minutes that you want? So hopefully we can get all that in, because some of it's already been pre-made and pre-measured. So mine is a pre-measured one, and we're going to be making granola. So you can see that I've got our good old Harvest Crunch here. And I wanted to do a comparison, but I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I thought I was going to look at the ingredients on this and not be able to pronounce some of them. And they're not bad. I don't like anything that's processed if you can make it from scratch. But when I did the comparison of ingredients to the box ingredients, so I took everything that I was adding and I added it up and I did this spreadsheet and I did the math. And the things that jumped out at me were sodium, fiber, and sugar. So for example, 2/3 of a cup, which is quite a bit. I would never eat 2/3 of a cup of granola crunch. I would add it to my oatmeal or cereal, but I wouldn't eat it just by itself. And some people do. But just note that on the sodium side, after we're done this recipe, and I take out 2/3 of a cup. Sorry, I said 3/4 of a cup. Should be 2/3. After I take out 2/3 of a cup of the recipe that I'm going to make, the sodium on this is 30 milligrams. The sodium in all the ingredients that I've pulled together here is less than 5.5 for the same measurement. The fiber on the granola is 3 grams. When we get through all of this, it's over 11. The sugar on the boxed granola is 13 grams. We have 3 in the ingredients that we're pulling together from our cupboards today. So I'll get started on this. And what I do is, we were talking just before everybody jumped on how Sheila and I are both intuitive cooks. I'm an intuitive eater also, meaning that I kind of go with what I love. And if I don't like it, I leave it out if it's not too significant. But what I've done with this recipe is I've modified it to my liking. So I have a recipe which I follow very lightly, and I'm just going to start with that. I've measured out a bunch of things, and I want to just share with you what they are. So good old oats, I've already got that measured out, and I split my recipe in half. So this is about 1.5 cups. Going to put that in a bowl. And then I've got flax here, which I have measured out. At least I thought I did. No, maybe not. I'm just going to measure out a good tablespoon of that. Like I said, I'm just going to be, throwing things together. And what I'm doing first is I'm going to throw together all my dry stuff in one bowl. Regular unsweetened coconut, because we are going to be adding sweet things. I never buy sweetened coconut. So I'm going to toss that in there. And I also have, let's see, what else have I got here? I'm going to pop this in my microwave. It is a little bit of almond butter and coconut oil. That's going to go separately. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm just going to pop that in and melt that. But at the same time, I've also got some cinnamon. I'm going to add, I love cinnamon. Nutmeg, always be careful with our nutmeg. Very, very little needed for that. And same with ginger. I don't use a whole lot of ginger, but I'm going to put a little bit in because I love the flavor. You could add turmeric to this. You can add anything you want to it. I'm going to grab my oil here and peanut butter or almond butter. So you can add whatever you want to that. And then you can, let's grab a spoon here, toss that up. Now I also have my handy dandy, I go to the bulk barn. Bulk barn is my go-to place, and I throw all my nuts in one container. So I'm going to put these nuts in a little processor here that I've got, and I know it's going to be noisy, so I'll try to be really fast on that. Okay, so I'm going to add a whole cup of different kinds of nuts. The recipe calls for almonds and walnuts and maybe pumpkin seeds or whatever. Also to the blender, I'm going to add my raisins and nope, I'm going to change that. I made a recipe the other day and I want to share something. I'm going to add my whole flaxseed. I've got a whole bunch of flaxseed and I've got chia seeds in here as well. I want to break them all up. I've also made myself some homemade applesauce. So I literally take an apple. You don't have to peel it. It is better to leave the peel on because you get more fiber. But I just warmed it up and mashed it up, and that's how it's going to be. So excuse me for 1 second. I want to leave it crunchy. I don't want to have it too ground up because I want to have some crunch in it. So I'm going to add all that to the dry ingredients. And then I'm going to add my applesauce and my melted oil and almond butter. I'm going to add that, and I'm going to add this, give it a good stir. Now I have my oven at 300. The thing with this is, however you like your coconut and nuts to be roasted, you want to just keep an eye on it. So I'm going to do 300 for about 20 minutes. And then I'm going to check it and toss it. And at that point, I am going to add the raisins, and I also have a couple of dates here. I'm going to grind them up. The reason I'm not adding them at the start is because I like mine super crunchy and toasted. So if you add them too early, they go hard. I found that with a previous batch that I made. So you don't want to break a tooth when you make these things. You don't want to have to visit the dentist. So I'm going to take my cookie sheet with parchment paper on it. Spread that out as evenly and thinly as you can. So you're going to see that this is actually only half the recipe. I did already make half the recipe. I'm going to spread that out. It makes a lot. So my point there is that it is freezable. You're going to put it into freezable containers. You're going to maybe keep some in the fridge. I suggest keeping it in the fridge anyways, not that maybe or anything. I would keep it in the fridge. So I'm going to pop that in my oven here. And because of the magic of cooking, we always have one that comes out ready, right? So this one I did cook it a little bit too long. And you're going to see that it's quite dark compared to the other one. And my raisins have gone kind of hard. So lesson learned on that one. I only have to make this like once every few months because it makes so much. This is like one batch split into two. And because it makes so much, I want to make a note on my recipe card that I should not be adding those raisins in at the beginning, maybe halfway through. And so now I'm going to put this into containers of maybe freezer bags or glass containers, put a whole bunch in the fridge. I love this on I love it on my yogurt, on my cereal. Just to have a handful when you're feeling like you need something. It's a healthy alternative. It's healthier than this, although I say that this, isn't that terrible. I don't like the sugar. I think the fiber could be increased. Even the protein could be increased. But it does have things in it like sunflower, brown sugar. I didn't add any sugar to this. The only thing that I added that might sweeten it is my applesauce and some vanilla as well. And I'll add that to the raisins when I do that. I forgot. And you could add maple syrup to it. So you can pretty much add anything, any nuts, any raisins. You could add dried cranberries. You could add, let's see, I added flaxseed. Anything that you want. You just have to cook it slow, give it a toss after about 20 minutes, and then throw it back in the oven keep it at 300, and then another 20 minutes, and it's going to be nice and crispy to your liking. So that is the recipe that I wanted to share with you. And just talking about, the fats that are in here, we talk about unsaturated, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, saturated, and trans fats. And we know that trans fats are not good for us. They're in a lot of things like our fried foods and our lunch meats, our pastries and crackers, potato chips, and those they must be reported if they're over a certain amount. But we want to avoid those, and we want to keep our saturated fats down and I've seen a recommendation of about 10% of our diet. I think that is a personal thing. Some of them have some good things in them that you want, and some of them you want to avoid. But in the unsaturated, it's going to lower our risk for cardiovascular disease, and that's what we're talking about today is Heart Month. We've got avocados and olives and almonds and cashews and pecans, and our seeds like flax seeds and pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, full of omega-3s and omega-6s. There's a lot to be said for that, for your heart and for your health. And nuts are an excellent, excellent way to get it. Nut butters. And if you can make your own, that's amazing. I mean, if you can just pull out your blender and make your own, I highly recommend it. You avoid all the processed things that go in at, before it hits the store. And storing it as well, like sometimes these containers that are stored at the store, you might want to make sure that you use glass jars. It might be a little bit healthier for your storage, and instead of plastic bags and things like that. So there's a lot in the nutrition side of our snacks that we're going to talk more about next month. And I'm going to enjoy some granola. I'm sorry that you can't, and I wish I could send it out to you, but I can share the recipe, which is sort of, like I said, sort of a wing it recipe. And I would love to share that with you if you're interested. I'm going to pass the show over to Sheila, and she's going to go over some ideas that she's got on easy, healthy snacks. She's going to reference a cookbook that she highly recommends for healthy eating. And I think both Sheila and I have the same idea of less ingredients or easy snacks make for, healthier eating and diets. So I'm going to change the host on this as I lean into my computer over to Sheila so she can share with you. And I hope that you enjoyed our granola today. Let me just grab this. Here we go. Bear with me 1 second here, peeps. All right. So now, Sheila, you are the host.
There's no sound.
Sorry about that. She's just getting unmuted. I believe, Sheila, you've got to get Reinhardt to unmute you.
Oh, yeah, right, she's muted, yeah.
Yeah. Nope, still not working. There we go.
I hope can everyone hear me now? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So what makes a heart healthy snack? So as Michelle has already mentioned, it's got to be high in fiber. It's going to have good fats, so no trans fats especially, low in sugar, high quality protein, and it should be power packed with vitamins and minerals. Okay. And if you're interested in a book about healthy aging, this is a great one. It's called Successful Aging, and I'll put the information there. The lady at the bookstore in Lakefield will order this in for you. It is in some of the local libraries, but not all. So those are the things that he says are really important for heart healthy eating. So we want to think about how can we use our snacks not only to have something that maybe satisfies a craving, looks good, tastes great, but is also a powerhouse of vitamins and minerals and protein and fiber. So let's start with maybe a commonly eaten snack by some of you, or maybe your kids or grandkids. So Oreo minis. So on it, it says it's low in saturated fat. That's a good thing. No trans fats. Great. No cholesterol. So we're thinking, terrific. This might not be such a bad snack. We look at the back. A serving is 9 cookies for some reason, and that's 140 calories. So you think, hey, that's not many. That's pretty good. And then you look and you see, oops, they've all fallen apart here. This is how big or small one cookie is. It's about the size of a quarter. Then we read the ingredients. So it would give you 9% of your daily requirement of fats. Oh, and if we add saturated and trans fats, that brings it up to 19, 5% of sodium. It's got quite a bit of sugar, not very much fiber, and absolutely no vitamins, a tiny bit of calcium and some iron. So at first glance, we might think, oh, only 12 calories per little thing. That's not bad. But it may satisfy a craving, but it doesn't give you any of that nutritional powerhouse that we're looking for. So I'd like to share a couple of different options with you. And as you can see, I like to store my things in glass containers. And the first one I like to make, well, put together, is dried apricots and walnuts. So for the same calories, but with all those other ingredients that we talked about as being important in snacks, if we have 7 of these, it's the same as those 9 Oreo minis. So these are regular apricots. Maybe I'll hold it in front of my apron so you can see. Nice orange color. Why these are orange color is because they have lots of preservatives in them. Here, kind of looks brown, not so happy, but they taste really good. Are the organic apricots with no preservatives in. So I had the privilege of spending quite a bit of time in Austria. And there I learned how you can make most simple food look more interesting to eat. So they use lots of patterns, little flowers, all kinds of things. And you can make yourself a nice little flower or another design in a small dish. Then you can just top it with little pieces of walnuts. So walnuts have lots of those good fats in. It's a good combination because you've got the sweetness of the apricots, the crunchiness of the walnuts. And you can just make a little design and just pick a really nice one for the middle. Also, heart disease is considered now to be an inflammatory disease, just like arthritis is. So walnuts, one of their properties is that they're anti-inflammatory. Good fats, proteins, a little bit of sweetness, and lots of fiber. And that took me, 2 minutes to make. So you can have this, or you can have this in about the same amount of time. Okay, the next thing I'd like to share with you is a quick little recipe that includes one of the seed butters. So nuts and seeds are power packed with all the good nutrients that we're looking for. So I always have several on hand. I'm not able to eat peanut butter. So I have pumpkin seed butter, sunflower seed butter, and hazelnut butter. They are really very flavorful. So you don't need much of them at all. Because some people say, oh, they're so high in calories. Well, they are, but they're also high in all these nutrients. So I just took a little apple, cut it in 4, scooped out the core on the inside. I'm just going to place not even a teaspoon, doesn't even eat a teaspoon of the pumpkin seed butter. Some people don't think it looks kind of ugly. I don't mind it. Maybe I'm just used to it. And then you can just top it off with a couple of dried cranberries. So these nut butters also are a little bit expensive. So I wait till they go on sale, then buy several jars at the same time. I like to shop locally and support local businesses as much as I can. So for those of you who are in the Lakefield area, the pantry on the main street. They are great through COVID, right from the beginning. You call them, you just tell them what you want, what size. They let you know if they have it or not. And then within a couple of hours, they call you and you can go and pick it up. So tremendous service. And if you go in the store, there's only ever one person, you in the store plus the staff, and they've got a great setup there. So also snacks are a great chance for you to use, whether you're making it for yourself or other people, some of the beautiful dishes that you maybe have. So this one my parents gave to me. It's a beautiful handmade piece of pottery. And rather than just keeping it in the shelf or saving it for a special occasion, you can pull out dishes like this and put your lovely little snack on that, and it just makes it extra special. So the apple with the skin on and the cranberry, lots of fiber. If you're looking for dried cranberries, a lot have quite a bit of sugar on. You can buy them with made with apple juice instead. They're a little bit harder to find, but there's no added sugar in this pumpkin seed butter. And so just a couple of little cranberries on top aren't going to make a big difference. We also want, whenever we have anything with sugar in it, we also want to have something, if possible, with fat and protein in. Because if we eat sugar, our blood sugar goes up and then we experience these crashes. So with eating protein and fat at the same time helps level that out. These dishes can also, or these kind of snacks also stay with us longer because of the protein and the good fats in. One of my other favorite hobbies, other than exercise, is taking traditional recipes and making them more healthy. So I would like to share with you now a little recipe that you're all probably familiar with, and date squares. So it calls for some flour, rolled oats, brown sugar, butter, or margarine. So what I did was I used spelt flour. So I like to use a variety of different grains, not just wheat. So spelt is I like using it. It's great for baking, especially the light spelt, or you can use the darker one. I did use the rolled oats, and this calls for 3/4 cup of brown sugar. What I did instead was used 1/4 cup of date sugar, and they have that at the pantry in Lakefield. It's made from dates, and it's a great option to like the refined brown sugar. And to make up the bulk, I added in to like another 1/2 cup of hemp seeds. They are great. You can keep them in the fridge for a long time. They have a bit of a nutty flavor. You can use them in all kinds of things. They would be great in Michelle's granola. So I mixed all this together, and because I wasn't using so much sugar, and I don't recommend putting no sugar in right from the beginning, because your taste buds need a little bit of time to adjust to that. So I put in just, a bit of sugar in here. I also added more cinnamon and nutmeg and allspice to give it some pizzazz. Then instead of using butter or margarine, so margarine is often made with trans fats. We don't really want those. What I used instead was this mixture that you can get at, they even have it at the Buckhorn Foodland. It's canola with avocado oil. So I use that instead of the butter. I also use that if I'm ever making a fruit crisp, because instead of using old pastry blender and having to get the butter into those pea-sized pieces that they always recommend, it's really easy, and the fat is distributed throughout the whole filling. Okay, so I'm making that. So if you're cooking for a smaller number of people and your recipes are for larger number, this is something you can keep in the fridge or the freezer. So I'm going to put it, instead of a normal 9x9 pan, so I don't know what that is in metric, I'm going to use a loaf pan instead. And I have this handy tool that my parents, I think, found at Lee Valley, and it is just great for really quickly pressing down the topping. Oh, you probably can't see that. Sorry. Pressing down the topping. Okay. So there it is. Really quick and easy. Then the other part is the filling. So I think my parents are online and they'll laugh that I was making date squares because in the past, when I was growing up, I hated dates. Anyway, what I was doing while preparing for this, I got rummaging around in my baking cupboards and I found all these little dribs and drabs of dried fruit. So I had little packages of raisins, a little bit of currants. I had some apricots that were really hard. I had dates that were just, oh, almost ancient. They were so dried out. I had some cranberries. So I'm trying also to waste less food. So I thought, what could I do with them? So I put them in a bowl and then I added some boiling water and let them sit for about 15 minutes and they got nice and plump. Instead of the recipe that calls, so you put all the dried fruit in a pan, you cook it for a bit. But instead of, I added the date, like the water from the dried fruit in, and instead of using sugar, because all this is so sweet already, you don't really need any sugar, I put in some frozen concentrated orange juice. And that gives it a nice, nice sweetness, a bit of an orange flavor, so you don't miss the sugar. Then I pour this on top. And you can use the back of a spoon if you don't have one of these handy gizmos. And then you put it in the oven. And it's a great thing to, you can also freeze it as well. And just like magic, here we go. So here's the dried fruit square. And you've noticed I've decorated it with some clementine oranges because it already has some orange flavor in it. I thought to add a little fruit would be good. Now you'll notice that if you buy date squares from a bakery or from, I don't know, they have them in Starbucks and I rarely go to Tim Hortons. They might have them in Tim Hortons as well. You get great big squares and you can tell it's got a lot of fat in it because if you put it in a bag, your bag gets all greasy and oily. So those have a tremendous amount of calories in from the fat and the sugar. So my taste has changed and I can't eat one of those anymore. It just tastes so sweet to me. The other thing I like to do is double the amount of filling. So I made double the batch of what was called the date filling or the dried fruit filling. It just, to me, it just tastes so much better. And the goodness of the sweetness of and the chewiness of the fruit is really important. So in recipes like this, like Michelle's, you could add chia seeds if you wanted to the topping. You could add some flax seeds if you wanted. So what I like about squares is they don't take as long as cookies. I think they taste as good and they're a little bit more forgiving. You can kind of play around with the ingredients a lot more. So those are the 3 recipes. And just as I wrap up, I'd just like to mention why fiber is so important to our heart health. So you can think of fiber like a scrubber for your insides. So fiber, we often think is very, very good for our digestive system, what it is. But what I learned by reading the Successful Aging book is that fiber stops the bad cholesterol from sticking to the inside of our arteries. So our arteries and veins are like tubes, and cholesterol can stick to the inside of those tubes. So by eating lots of fiber, and once again, nuts and seeds are a great way to get those as well as whole grains. It prevents that bad cholesterol from sticking to your blood vessels in the first place. So that's another reason why fiber is really good in addition to to helping out your digestive system. So once again, just back to just so you know, because people say, I don't want to eat too much dried fruit because they have so many calories in. I looked it up. 1 apricot has 8 calories and 1/2 a walnut has 12. So each one of these little morsels is 20 calories. So that's it. Michelle, I'll turn it back over to you. And
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, actually, just talking about calories just a little bit more, like I'm not a huge calorie, and I think you're the same. I'm not a huge calorie watcher because I do include really good fats in my diet, and fat like coconut oil and that kind of thing. They're high in calories, no matter which way you try and twist it. They're going to be high in calories, but it's a good fat, right? So we want to make sure that we keep our eye on the calories, but not to the point that it's going to change what we're eating, because you could have something that's low in calories, but like you said, it's also going to be low in fiber and high in sugar, because the fat is where the calories are going to come from, not so much the other ingredients all the time. But when talking about trans fats and your cholesterol, when in the nutrition course that I was doing, one way I was trying to remember LDL and HDL and that. LDL is our saturated bad fat, right? It's what I call LDL lousy fat. And then you've got your HDL, which is your good fat, and that's your happy fat. So H for happy and L for lousy. So that's just a way that I try and remember the two fats, the HDL, I mean, and the LDL for our cholesterol. We want to keep the LDL low and increase the HDL for our good heart health. And there's a lot that we can eat that helps with that. There's certain conditions, health conditions, like if you're on a renal diet with kidney issues, there's certain foods that one person that is a nutrition expert would say, oh, that's excellent for you, but it's not good for everybody's diet, especially if you've got kidney issues. You want to watch. And I was recently reading on avocados. I love avocados, and they have a lot of fat, but they're so good for you, and they are not necessarily good with someone who's on a renal diet that has kidney issues. And this is something I just learned that I thought I would share with you. But anyhow, those were amazing recipes that you pulled together in literally 17 minutes. And that was fast and easy and very nutritious. Thank you very much for that, Sheila. That was great. I hope you're going to share those with everybody after our get together today.
I'm sorry, I
Are you
need
on
to
mute?
leave now to, I'm giving.
Oh, okay.
I'm giving a presentation to the Peterborough team about the exercise and the wellness classes, programs that we're offering. They're always keen to learn what we're up to, and hopefully they'll, in their work, they can let more people know about the program, so we can spread the love and get more people involved. But it was this has been a dream of mine for many years, so I'm so glad to have a chance to join you this afternoon in this mini cooking class.
And we'll do some more next month. Thanks, Sheila. I'm going to unmute everybody. And let me just do that right now. I wish I had my mouse with me. I don't have to lean into the computer. So as everybody starts to unmute, is there any questions or requests or anything that we want to share together as a group?
I make my own
granola,
but there's a few things that I don't put in that you do. So can I have your recipe and then I can?
Sure. Yeah. Just remember my recipes modified to my liking. So I'll put in there the things that I use on a regular basis, but I'll also give you options to what you could use. Like apricots is another thing that you could use instead of, maybe if you don't want to use raisins or chopped dates, apricots are very, very good. Yeah, for sure. We'll share all the recipes with everybody who's here today. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, mine calls for mangoes, but I don't like mangoes.
Oh, yeah.
Leave them out.
Some different recipes out there.
So,
Yeah, I think the key with the granola is cooking it low and slow. So getting a little bit of moisture in there, that's going to help crisp it up with like the almond butter that I was using, or the coconut oil. And some people might not want coconut oil or coconut at all. They might just want to put avocado oil in it or olive oil. Oil is another thing that you could really talk a lot about, and there's different discussions about canola oil or peanut oil and all the different oils that are out there. But I kind of stick to the coconut oil myself, and avocado oil and olive oil.
Yeah, well, mine calls for sunflower oil, but I put olive oil in it.
Yeah.
That's a good substitute.
I always thought coconuts and coconut oil were bad for cholesterol for some reason.
They do have saturated fats in them.
Yeah.
And, that's your HDL, your LDL levels that you want to keep down. And that's where you want to keep the saturated fats in check. So I read that it's about 10% is okay to have in your diet. But I think that also depends on your markers, that if you go to the doctor and they do all the blood tests on you, just ask them, ask them to give you your overall cholesterol with the details of it. You can get your cholesterol markers, but then you can go a little bit deeper into it and get more information. But moderation is key, but taste is pretty important too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that was good. I really think that it turned out well, and Sheila did a wonderful job. I'm going to look forward to making her date squares or fruit squares or whatever she wants to call them.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Joyce, you were asking about my isolation. So I'm currently in isolation, by the way, and I'm almost done Sunday midnight. I was told I couldn't come out of my house till midnight Sunday. Yes, I'm living in Buckhorn, where they're going through some crazy times right now.
Are they?
Yeah.
It's crazy in Buckhorn.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
But tested negative, which is really good. And I mentioned to a few people that tested on early that I'm getting my second test today, and they're actually coming here probably within the next hour to do a second test on me, so I don't have to leave my house.
That's
Well,
wonderful.
there you go.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, my husband didn't even feel like, I think I had the flu a little bit beforehand, and I was fighting something, and then when it came out that there was somebody close by, that I'm like, all right, well, I get tested right away, and then nothing. Thank goodness.
That's good.
Yes.
Good.
It doesn't matter what bug it is; it can knock you off your feet, though, I tell you.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
So with
Yeah.
Monday's weather, Michelle, we wouldn't have gone pole walking anyway.
I know we had a couple of pole walking groups planned for this week, and Monday was pretty bad. Even this whole week was like, today we had snow squalls this morning, and it was a good week to be stuck inside, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks as if the pole walking groups are going to start back hopefully the week of March 8th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Also, it was like
Yeah.
April.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take a quick poll here. With Nutrition Month coming up next month, excuse me, we're going to have some more cooking classes. I think we've got 2 planned. Whether I think Sheila's going to lead them or whether I'm involved or not. But is there anything that you are interested in getting more recipes with, like as far as
Always.
I don't know, nuts or oats or
Like a
I was going
healthy,
to go into healthy what?
I like a healthy cookie.
A healthy cookie. Good
Yeah.
one. Good one. So I actually, where did I put my little recipes? Because honestly, I have got this really great, I just have to find these recipes I had pulled out. Oh, here they are. So I have, maybe what I'll ask Sheila to do is share this one, and it's called an Almond Joy Cookie. And if you like coconut, which is Almond Joy, right? Remember, Almond Joys aren't even in the store anymore.
No, bounties.
Bounty, yes. So this
Oh,
is
yeah.
an Almond Joy Cookie with, again, my unsweetened coconut mixed with, and I use my little blender here that I was showing you, wherever the rest of it is. I literally put these ingredients in there and I chop it up, and they're no cook. So they're coconut, dates, again, coconut oil, a little bit of vanilla extract. Put that all in the blender and then you mix it up and form them into the mounds, right? And it becomes an Almond Joy when you add the almond on top. But first
very
you have to
cool.
dip it into chocolate. So dark chocolate is supposed to be really, really good for you. So I'm going to share that one next month.
Yay.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then another healthy snack that I really like, and I'll share next month maybe, is I have a chocolate date balls, non-cooked, three ingredients, the less ingredients, the easier. And then I have another one, just chia pudding. If anybody doesn't eat chia seeds, it's just super easy, 2-3 ingredients, and it's within a couple of hours, you've got a pudding.
No.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and they're so healthy, right? And that's another one that you can do almost anything with. Like I do chia pudding with, gosh, I've tried it with so many different things. I've put apple in it, I put blueberry, I put cocoa in it,
Is that like a rice
cinnamon.
pudding?
Yeah,
It turns out kind of like if you're a tapioca person, it's more
Oh,
like the
okay.
tapioca, right? So it gets a
Okay.
little bit of that gooey. I'm big on texture. I'm not a big gooey person, but I force myself to eat it because it tastes so good, and I know it's good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I don't make it, because it's like tapioca.
It's a texture thing, right? Like I can't do rice pudding either, but I picked up black rice, which is very nutritious at the bulk barn, and it's a really delicious flavor when you make something
Yeah,
like rice
that's really
pudding.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've had
Yeah,
black rice. It's really
it's delicious. It's actually kind of purple when you make it. Not really black, it's purple. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Michelle. I have to run because I have a
you're
Zoom
very
meeting
welcome. Oh, well, everyday life.
that I've set up, so I should be there on time at 1:45. So
Well, thanks, Joyce, for
good to
joining
see you.
us. You too. You
Good to
too.
see you.
Yeah,
We'll see you on the trail shortly.
definitely, Joyce. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay, take care.
you too. You too. Yes. So I made a note of healthy cookies. Good here, excuse me.
healthy crackers.
And what was the other question?
I would put forward healthy crackers. I like crunchy
Oh,
things.
okay. So, I'm going to suggest homemade. If we can do some homemade crackers. I've never made homemade crackers, but one that was a go-to for me was the rice cracker, or something like on the light rye side of things instead of the processed like Ritz or anything like that. They're way too processed. But maybe we can find a homemade cracker recipe. That would be nice. I really like eating crackers with almond butter, and then top it with a strawberry, or I top it with a piece of banana, and that's a great go-to snack. And in my car, I always have, I shared with you my little box of nuts here. I'll fill up one of these containers or a bag or something and keep it in my car. And then I'll just grab a handful of blueberries or strawberries from the fridge. And those two combinations together, oh, delicious. Just a piece of walnut and a strawberry together. So good for on the go. Yeah. Very
May I
easy to.
just say, I'm Sheila's mom, that she makes a really good homemade cracker.
Oh,
Sheila,
excellent.
Sheila does that. And we do have several recipes without sugar, but we do use maple syrup, but fairly sparingly. And I have modified the, probably all have it, the old chocolate macaroon uncooked recipe that was the go-to if you had to make something. I've modified that with coconut oil, maple syrup, and it's one thing that Sheila really likes.
Excellent.
So she probably has. No, I think I'm the only one that really has that recipe because I keep changing it. So it's always a recipe in progress. But, but I know our son had a lot of recipes with no sugar. very little fat. And
Okay, well, I'll mention that to her that she's got to get that from you for our next nutritional month recipe day. And we'll make that. Actually, I'd love to get it before we even make it and make some for myself just to give sort of that new opinion of how it is, right? Yeah. Yes, that's wonderful. I love that idea of making homemade crackers. That's where I struggle is my go-to, like I said, is the rice cracker, but it's still processed. And if you can do something that's not processed, you're better for it.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
she found that like some Mary's crackers, but they are very expensive. So she has made something similar.
Right.
Oh,
I
Right.
don't
And
know that she
another,
has a recipe or she just does it. But,
so what is it? What kind of flour?
well, she uses a lot of spelt, so I'm not positive, but it could be spelt flour in it. But I'm not sure. Yeah,
Right.
I'm not positive on that.
One trick that I found with flour is that, well, I mean, if anybody works with coconut flour, it absorbs the liquid. So you can't use as much, right, with coconut flour. But if it ever calls for oat flour and you've got a bag of oats and you've got a food processor, there you go. You don't have to go buy oat flour and pay extra. You just have to make it yourself and just keep it in the processor going. And it makes it nice and light and works well.
Yeah, 'cause I-
That's very
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we try and stay away from the whites, right? The white sugar, the white flour, and the white breads and that, as we're all trying to eat healthier. But sometimes you just have a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that, I suppose, unless you're gluten free or what's the other one? Not gluten. Celiac.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So,
Sorry.
well, I hope everybody enjoyed our get together today, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you for joining us. It was a really good group. We had 20 people join us. And watch your calendar for a couple of changes maybe or additions to the exercise classes, and for the Nutrition Wellness Wednesday that we'll be taking on for March. And and watch your email also for these recipes, and feel free to ask us any questions or put in any requests. I'd love to know what you'd like to hear more about.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Yes, you're going to be on at 3:30?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I'll see you then.
Don't forget your records on.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I'll do that right now.
I didn't know if you realized it was still on.